Director for Planning and Performance Management here at AASHTO. And welcome to the second webinar of the Geospatial Online Transportation Users Group, or GOTUG. GOTUG is sort of a group or a task force underneath the scopes, the Standing Committee on Planning, Subcommittee on Data. We'll talk more about that later. But again, sort of welcome to everybody. A few housekeeping items before we get going. First, everybody is in listen-only mode. So you can say stuff, but we're not going to hear you. So second, if you do have any problems, you can use the Q&A functionality, question and answer. That's also how you're going to ask your questions. So at the end of the presentations, we will have time for Q&A. So please type in your questions. You can type them in whenever you want to, and I will be the moderator for that once we come to that. And then finally, there are a couple of handouts. There's a little area of the control panel called handouts. And I think you can download Nicole's presentation right now, and you can also download the presentation that I'm using and that Becky is going to use to sort of introduce more of what GOTUG is and everything. So you can do that now. We are also recording this webinar. So if you see something or you hear something and you want to share with other people, we will have a recording. You'll be able to download that at gotug.transportation.org. That's gotug.transportation.org. We'll post that probably sometime later this week, along with the slide decks that everybody is using. So those are just a few housekeeping items. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Becky Jones from the Utah DOT, who is the co-chair of the Geospatial Online Transportation Users Group, along with Matt Robinson from the Michigan Department of Transportation. So, Becky, all yours.
Thanks, Matt. Do you want to go ahead and go to the next slide? So today we're going to have a couple of presentations. We're going to have Eric Abrams from Iowa DOT starting just after we finish up the introduction here with snowplow automation, and then we'll have Nicole Hansen from Idaho with her iPlan presentation, followed by question and answers. Before we kick off, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the GOTUG work group. You can go to the next slide, Matt. And who's involved. So Matt Robinson, I'm bringing this up again because we didn't have a photo of him last time, so his photo is actually the most fun of all of us, but it's nice to put a face with a name. So if you see him at GIST or at any peer exchanges or just want to reach out to him with some questions, he's at Michigan DOT and he's the co-chair. I'm again at Utah DOT, and Matt Hardy introduced himself from AASHTO, and he's helping us with this committee. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So GOTUG is the Geospatial Online Transportation User Group. It began as the AASHTO Innovation Initiative that was started in Utah, and that was the UPlan initiative. And this is the very final the final piece of that is to keep the momentum that was built with UPlan 1 and UPlan 2, and just give all the DOTs a forum to exchange information on how their transportation agencies are using online geospatial technologies. And the goal is really collaboration and bringing ideas together. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So the reason we're doing this is because you can see the states in blue and red are all states that were part of the UPlan initiative, and the DOTs all have an online presence for geospatial technologies, and we want to be able to just, again, continue that momentum and give us an opportunity to work together. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
So,
okay.
So as I mentioned previously, the GOTUG is a part of or underneath the umbrella of the Standing Committee on Planning, and so as Becky said, the GOTUG started as an initiative of the AASHTO Innovation Initiative, the AII. I kind of think of that as sort of an incubator for different ideas and projects. Once they're in the AII, they have to sort of find a place to sort of reside. The final home can't be within the AASHTO Innovation Initiative. And in talking with Becky and talking with Matt, and then also my counterpart Keith Platty, who was sort of running AII at the time, we thought the natural home for this would be under the Standing Committee on Planning, because a lot of the tools and the resources and sort of what's being done, a lot of times it sort of fits within or supports the overall, sort of planning process within the state DOT. And SCOPE has a subcommittee specifically on data. It's not just sort of planning data, but it's data in general that can be used for sort of many different purposes. So the SCOPE subcommittee on data is chaired by a gentleman named Greg Slater. He is from the Maryland State Highway Administration. And the purpose of the SCOPE subcommittee on data is to be the central focal point within AASHTO addressing cross-cutting transportation data issues. And again, I emphasize as much as I can that idea of cross-cutting. It's not just planning data or data for models for planning, but it's really any type of data issues. And it goes from, why is data important? Why should we treat data as an asset, all the way to sort of performance data, to sort of data standards and everything. So the SCOPE subcommittee on data has a number of different focus areas, including sort of core data principles. There's 7 of those core data principles that we try to sort of promote, that when a state DOT looks at perhaps a data business plan or something like that, that they sort of think about these sort of core data principles. Things like data is an asset. We need to share data like we do in kindergarten, things like that. We're also developing a AASHTO, or a concept for an AASHTO data guidebook that would be used by state DOTs or really any transportation agency who's developing a data program to sort of give them some sort of structure or a guide to how to come up with a data program. They look at data analysis and reporting, what type of tools are needed for data analysis, what type of tools are needed to sort of report data, turn that data into information that can be used by decision makers. And we also have connections with the National Data Advisory Council, development and implementation of the National Household Travel Survey, NSGIC, the National State Geographic Information Council, and then ARNOLD, or the All-Road Network of Linear Reference Data. So all of those issues, those focus areas, are addressed by the SCOPE subcommittee on data. And again, I think a natural home for the GOTUG for this group is within this subcommittee. So that's sort of an overview of SCOPE and the subcommittee on data, and we look forward to sort of working with the GOTUG and all the members as we move forward. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Becky. Oh, Becky, your phone might be muted.
There, now I'm not muted.
There we go.
I was thinking no one could hear me. We can go ahead and just move into the presentations. We're going to start with Eric Abrams from Iowa. He's going to be talking about snowplow automation, and I'm really excited to see what he has to say and hear his presentation. He is the Geospatial Manager, and he resides under Performance in the Performance and Technology Division. He has developed many spatial systems and has 26 years of experience. So let's go ahead and turn the time over to him.
Okay, good. I'm assuming everyone can see my screen and everything, so I'm going to assume that we can. So today we're going to talk about snowplows. That's just kind of what started everything, but really the whole thing is about data from moving vehicles out there and how that can be used. And also I'm going to be touching on how Iowa DOT is putting this data out to the public for them to consume and use. So with that, let's go ahead and get started here. All right, so first, while I'm talking, please be distracted, okay? So I put up a couple of links up here, so if you want to grab a screenshot or something, I want you to kind of, experience the track and plow site as I'm talking. You can also check out our ArcGIS Online site, and that last link here, the arcg.is link, is to our ArcGIS Online REST services. And there you can actually, if you have ArcGIS Online, go ahead and make your own snowplow map. Make your own, look at what we have out there and throw some things together. So go ahead and be distracted while I talk. So hopefully that'll bring some questions along. So why we do AVL and snowplow tracking. Iowa DOT has over 900 snowplows. You can see the number of center lines of roads, how much brine and salt we use. So if we can use data to reduce salt consumption, you know, we can save over $1 million in 10% reduction in salt. So if we use analytics, use data to look at where we're putting down materials, hey, maybe we can do it better and move traffic a lot faster. So that's somewhat of why we do it. Look at cost control. You know, right now a lot of field has laborious record keeping. We want to audit our material use in real time so we can move with changing weather conditions. Response consistency between garages, that the garages are doing the same things for the same weather. And impact of winter operations on pavement and other assets are out there. The last thing we want to do is keep doing the same thing like the gentleman down below, you know, keeps bringing the same rock over and over again. And we want to make sure we get out of that box and we look at things differently. So the type of data that we're collecting out there, speed of the vehicle, location, of course, blade positions of all the different blades on the truck, material types and rates that are coming out the back of the vehicle, air and pavement temperatures, the engine bus information. That way, if like a truck's engine light comes on, you can throw that engine bus to a mechanic and they can say, hey, keep driving, not a big deal, or hey, why don't you pull over, we get a tow truck out to you. And also, we're collecting photos from the vehicles. It's also built on a robust architecture, and I'm going to touch on that here in a little more detail in a few slides. Basically, it's running Oracle Spatial Database in the background that we harvest data from our AVL vendor, bring it in-house, and then we aggregate that information on our road centerline system, and it pushes out to our plow site, our winter operations management site, and so on. It's all really based on that database central concept of bringing data in, making sure it's clean, dumping it down to our central database environment, and then pushing that back out in web services to be consumed by whoever needs to use it, whether it's the public, whether it's our own applications and things like that. So it's really a create once, create the data feeds once, and use many times philosophy this is built on. So some of the analysis that we do with this data, you know, of course, you're going to want to do fleet management. Now, we really haven't got deep into the analysis side of things. I know our Office of Maintenance has done a good job of starting to look at this data, you know, how it deals with our salt stockpiles and so on. But we're set up strategically to really move to that next level of analysis, to look at, you know, real-time storm response, you know, where our materials going down in our pavement conditions, looking at how fast the public is moving in real time compared to what we're doing with it. You know, can we get another 5 miles an hour of average speed during a storm on an interstate system? There's also things like blade longevity. You know, if you buy 2 different blades that are $100,000 difference in price, does one last longer than the other? You know, having this data, you can do that. And then also getting to a predictability of travel. I really believe that we can get to a point where we don't report road conditions, that we report predictability. If you're going to go from A to B, it's predictable that you have a 90% probability of getting there doing a speed limit trip. I think people want to know that more than what is our interpretation of the road condition out there. So some of the way that our maintenance staff can work with this data, I'm assuming that my mouse can be seen, I hope. So this number 1 box, you know, the whole system reads the stuff out of Oracle. We got a heads-up display over here. So as you look at, as a maintenance supervisor can look at a truck, you can see how fast the truck is moving. I see the road temp, air temp, and you know the trucks are color-coded based on those temperatures. So you can say, okay, trucks are blue, that means we're at freezing, and if it's yellow, you know we're getting close to freezing. So as you kind of look at these different scenarios here, you can see the different types of icons that we use for heads-up display. And basically, that's just bringing the data in, put in a database. We have an ArcGIS map document that goes on ArcGIS server that just basically queries and renders these symbols out based on what's going on. So. So our maintenance tools have a storm response tool called WOPR, Winter Operations Portal Reporting. It has no relation, well maybe it does, to the movie War Games with the computer WOPR there. We tend to like to rip off acronyms from things like that and use them. So with this, as you see, the supervisors, this is all HTML5, so the same application works mobile, works desktop, works tablet. So in this situation here, you can look at a segment of road, and we'll dive into this in a second. You can look at a segment of road, see where your trucks are at, see where photos are being taken. You can highlight an area and drop the photos or different assets along the left-hand panel so you can see what's going on out in the field. And with that, you click on a segment, and this is the type of data that we're aggregating in real time. When I mean real time, it's every 15 minutes we take the plow data and develop algorithms and then dump it on these what we call winter segments that are out there. So like on this segment down here, we see that we're showing a 2-hour response to that layer. So the number of passes, that's the number of times a truck has passed that segment, the number of pings we've got on there, the length of the segment, our average truck speed, our average air and road temps, the amount of material used, the cost on that. So as you see, we're setting ourselves up that we can start taking this data and using it in different ways in the future. And even share this out to our business partners so they can, and local governments, to see how we're responding to a storm, even our neighboring states. So here's an example of what it looks like on like a phone on the left-hand side. You'll see that we got the same type of thing. This is actually, I screenshotted this morning. We were having snow here, and so as you can see, our trucks out there working things. So this is that's the mobile side. Our WOPR site is actually going to be retired after this winter. It's using GeoCortex Essentials. We're going to be moving that site over to for the traffic operations people to use. The back-end architecture of this is changing. The modems are changing from LTI as our vendor to Skyhawk. And so maintenance has decided they want to use their cloud-based system from Skyhawk. So that's kind of a sample of what their site looks like down here. So, all right. So let's talk about a little bit about the public information evolution. So we first rolled out plows to the public back in January of 2014. Basically, it was an ArcGIS Online map that just showed the locations of our plows. And what that was, the main reason for that was media was calling, asking how many trucks we had out at any given time. So what that did was answer that question for the public. They could see the trucks, click on a truck, get the total number of trucks that were out there working at that time. At that time, we used a KML, so we created a KML from our centralized database. We put it up on a Microsoft Azure cloud server. I think that shows down here on this left-hand side. And then we push that up to the ArcGIS Align map, just reference that KML. So that was fine and dandy. But in October 2014, we pushed all the data last year into an ArcGIS Online feature service for the high availability. So that was the main reason for that. Now, we have found a lot of things about using AGOL and high availability. It works really well, but it works really well if you do the right things. I'm going to touch on those in a second. So in 2015, so far this winter, we've now optimized our process, so we believe it's pretty rock solid. We came across a couple things in our last storm a couple weeks ago that were causing our ArcGIS Align site to go down. Worked with ESRI to fix those, so I'll kind of show you what those are. So if you're going to put out high availability sites in ArcGIS Align, they're going to literally have 2 million queries, an hour. There's a few things that you need to do. So for people that do ArcGIS Align, this is really good to know. In the past, what we did was we had to set the layers up, our feature services up, so they're editable all the time because you didn't have permissions to turn things on and off because we were using FME. So FME couldn't go out, flip on editable on the feature service, and then turn that back off. So what we did this in the last few weeks was we just added a Python script at the beginning of that would go ahead and turn on editing when the job ran, and then was done, it would turn that off. So that substantially improved our performance. And also we found that that if you put filters on your layers inside of ArcGIS Align, ArcGIS Align becomes very chatty. it queries differently. So we went ahead and changed our stuff on our Trackaplow site to remove all the filters. So we ended up putting out some new feature services that you wouldn't have to filter on to be able to show different things. So I tell you what, after doing those types of things, the site's rock solid. This last couple storms we had over Thanksgiving and stuff, no issues at all. And I can touch base on that. If you want to know the details on this afterwards, you can ask a question or you just email me directly, and I can get you what we found out. Here's basically one of our FME processes that works. This is how Trackaplow gets its data. On the left-hand side, we're just reading our Oracle database out there, create once, use many. We're calculating the number of trucks that we have out there. We're just basically filtering the trucks based on if it's putting on liquid, solid, or none. It's creating an attribute that we populate in a field that goes to the feature service. And then all it does is write to the ArcGIS Online feature service. That's it. It just updates it and goes. Our images are the same way. Here's our plow photos that are down here. They come through. They just write to ArcGIS Online. It's actually that simple. It's kind of embarrassing it's that simple, but you know, that's really the magic that runs ArcGIS Online. And I can also send you the Python script for using the turn on and off the editability. So, all right, so now we're going to jump into social media and public interaction. When we first put this out, and people heard we were putting it out in 2014 and late 2013, they said we were nuts, that the public was going to start dictating where we plow, how we plow, that we're doing a bad job of what we're doing. We found actually the opposite, and I'll show some examples here of that. And the three maps you see here are basically the three iterations. This one here on the left was our first iteration, 2014. 2015, we went to this, and 2016, we went to more of a mobile friendly template. All these are stock ArcGIS Online templates. They literally took us about an hour to construct. So our cost to deployment is really reasonable. And our cost to run our Trackaplow site through ArcGIS Online is just pennies, you know. So shame on Esri for not charging us a little more. So, but yeah, it's really cost effective. All right. So what our media marketing group does is they really do a good job of throwing out, educating the public on how to use the different sites. So we have our 511 site on the left. This infographic kind of talks about what that's about. Our Trackaplow site on the right kind of talks about, you know, what that is. So the Trackaplow site is really more of it's a marketing site for us to show the public what we're doing, how we're doing it, and to give pictures. And I think 511 will eventually have those pictures on their site. That's a work in progress. It's an open data feed, so they can grab it and go. All right. So we have different partners who leverage our feeds. So on our feeds, our high availability feeds and ArcGIS Online open to the public. Our Iowa State University Mesonet uses it. MOC, which is our law enforcement side, where we can see our different officers from the different political jurisdictions can see each other. They also leverage the plows and where our assets are at through that. Traffic operations software, which we're using TransSuite, leverages it. Cars 501 actually can pulls the cars data or pulls the plow data in. Different TV, radio, emergency management, general public, DNR, even neighboring states use our site. We were in South Minnesota, I think I can't remember last year or 2 years ago, talking with them, one of their districts up there, and they like using our site to see how we're responding to a storm as a storm moves from south to north into Minnesota. So that's really encouraging that we're doing something good. All right, so now I'll jump into some of the nice things that people say about us. You know, we don't find very many bad things. So there's a picture from a TV station that's using our real-time plow images to educate their viewers of what's going on. This one here shows a picture of a plow, and one lady is criticizing us that the drivers are taking pictures and they should be on the road. And as you see through social media, we didn't have to respond to this person because in this case, Dixie County Emergency Management says that they're fixed. You know, they went ahead and created the truth of what was going on, and they educated this person on what was happening with these pictures, which is really nice to see. Another example of Iowa DOT tweeting out what's going on, or actually that's Facebook. this person really thinks that Iowa DOT is awesome. I think these are really great things to see that this is positive feedback that we get. Yeah, this one says that this is too distracting. Apparently, this guy really likes to follow our plows, just watch them move around at work. So, and just some other examples here. This is one of my favorite ones, awesome sauce. I think that's great. I use this slide a lot because I just really think that it shows that when you start becoming transparent and wrapping that with an educational component of what we're doing, that really means a lot. Our local TV station's using it. Here they're dropping our plow pictures on top of the weather radar. So public safety, it really works out good. This one's just complimenting that we're doing a good job out there, seeing what's happening with the trucks. And this is from the other day. Another person thinks we're awesome. It's an awesome application of GIS and situation awareness, which I would agree that this system does do a good job of doing that. And just some other examples from around, well, just recently. So this here kind of shows our current application of what's going on. Basically, this is a stock ArcGIS Align template. We moved the buttons down to the bottom in order to be more thumb-friendly on the mobile phones. We put more modern icons, more friendly icons up here, actually little cameras for the camera images. And so this is a snapshot from actually this morning, about 7 o'clock this morning, what the state looked like with its road conditions, our fleet out there. And then if people that start zooming in, as you zoom into the map, our fixed traffic cameras turn on, our DMS signs turn on. So there's a lot of good little tidbits of information you can get while you're in there. This one just basically shows, a legend over here of what's going on, and then some of the layers that we have in here. So we also pull the Minnesota and Nebraska 511 layers from them, and then we can display when they have priority closures on there. Plus, we also harvest the Nebraska and Minnesota road conditions, and then render those back out as a REST service that anyone could use. All right, we're getting close here. So some of the high availability feeds that you'll see on that public ArcGIS Align REST service. We have plows, plow camera, fixed cameras, road conditions for 3 states, digital message signs, our 511 events, the plow analytics that are going on that we're going to be putting out there, and real-time traffic information. So we also have some stuff that aren't public that we're hoping to work out. We're actually doing a Waze poll. We actually have an agreement with Waze, so we pull Waze data for the state, bring it in, process it, dump it to our database, and push it back out to as a private REST service for DOT staff to use. And we also have one with INREX that we're pulling their data, and we're showing anomalies in traffic flow around the state where traffic speeds are less or greater than average for those areas that we can flag. All right, so the future, where we're heading in the future. Have more data out there for the public and supervisors to mash up and use. Plow and DMS notifications, being able to do things like as a plow gets close to where there's digital message signs, if the DMS sign can change, warning drivers that there's plows in the area. That's something that's been on our bucket list for a couple years, and we're eventually going to get to that. Our Office of Maintenance is retrofitting all the trucks with brand new modems and going to be upgrading sensors for more reliable sensor data for plow up and down. So basically the back end of the system is going to be going away and changed out with new, better technology. But the front end stuff, we're still going to have whatever we need to put the data through. Predictive analytics is going to be big. We're going to have to do some projects some R&D this winter to look at predictive analytics. So our track and plow site will probably end up having some predictive analytics in it. That'll show like when you can predict another plow to come through, things like that. And things like cost. What is it costing to keep an interstate open during a storm? Giving that information out to the public, and then wrapping that with a marketing campaign so the public can understand where the money's going and what benefit they're getting out of that. So with that, I think I have a few minutes here. Yeah, so with that, just want to run over, since I'm sharing my screen here, here's our track and plow site here for those that have been looking at it. So you can click on a image of what's going on out there, take a look at that beautiful landscape that's out there. And as you zoom into different areas, we have our fixed cameras come on and so on. So that's basically what the track and plow site looks like. So I encourage you to go take a look at it and tell me what you think. Our other one is our winter operations site that our drivers use. This is HTML5 version of it, so they can come in here, look at some different things. They can come and look in an area, swipe it, get information about the trucks and segments that are out there, see the pictures that are going on. Also be able to turn things on and off. I want to turn on, here we're over in western Iowa, close to Nebraska, so we can look at road conditions for us. Let me zoom out here. So we got Nebraska road conditions over here. If anyone from Nebraska on there, there's got wet pavement there. So we also have different ITS things that we can do. Our cameras, we've got NOAA wind speeds, our RWIS sensors and AWAS sensors that are out there. Also have storm response. This is the analytics piece. So what the storm response can get us is, I ran a report here a little bit ago from about 11:30 today, Central. So this is showing us each district, and over a 2, 4, 6, 12, and 24-hour period, we can start looking at the amount of material used, and you can also look at cost of those types of things. So this is, like I said, having all this stuff on the back end and the data readily available, now all of a sudden you can start doing all these analytics. You can start thinking of other things out of the box to do with this data and go from there. So I guess with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over. So.
Thanks, Eric. I'm not sure if Matt was going to jump in here or not, but I did have one question. This is Becky, and I typed it in.
Yeah, I can't see the type in.
Okay, so let me go ahead and tell everyone. So I'm wondering if you're using anything like Google Analytics to track the use of that service.
No, we're not, because unless somebody can educate me on this, I think with the ArcGIS Online stuff, you can't tie analytics to it. Now, I could be wrong on that. Oh, I see your thing, yeah. So we have to just be able to look at the analytics that Esri gives you when you look at like the feature service at ArcGIS Online. That's what we use to kind of gauge usage.
Okay.
So if somebody knows, go ahead.
There's one other question specific to you, Eric.
Okay.
It's an AVL vendor was mentioned. Can you say who the AVL vendor is?
Oh, we were using LTI out of Kansas City. They didn't win the new contract, and so now we're switching over to Skyhawk. I think it's Skyhawk Telematics. They're going to be providing the modems and the new data feed. So the way we built our system was, it doesn't matter where the data is coming from. It doesn't matter how the data's, what's using the data. What matters is we can bring those feeds in, process the data as we need to process, so it's open and available to all of our systems. So it's basically, it's software neutral. I think half our trucks, or almost half our trucks, are going to be outfitted this winter with the Skyhawk system, and next summer the rest will be outfitted.
Okay. Since if people want to quickly type, if there are any other specific questions right now for Eric, type them in as we transition over to Nicole as she kind of brings up her presentation. I don't see anybody typing. So, okay, well, I mean, if you have more questions for Eric, feel free to type them into the Q&A little chat pod there. and we'll take care of it at the end. So with that, I think we're going to turn over to Nicole Hansen. So go for it.
Okay. So I'm basically, just going to kind of talk about how we found how ITD has found knowledge utilizing iPlan to spatially enable our business units data. If I can get this to go. Yay! Okay, so a little background. When I started at ITD, I found out pretty quickly that the data was in silos. Pretty much each business unit kind of just held on to all of their data and would only give the GIS team what they thought we needed to use to map up their requests. And so this resulted in many back and forth emails to finally get either the correct attributes that were needed or even the complete data that they were wanting to have mapped up. One time I was actually asked to just make a map up of all of our 129,000 pound routes, and the requester wanted me to include all the waterways, the rest of the roads, all the city points and county boundaries. And as I'm building this for her, and I was like, wait, this is going to be way too much, but I sent it off because that was what she was asking. And she was like, okay, yeah, this is too much. Can we thin it down? And so I kind of made some suggestions and thinned it down for her, and it was exactly what she was hoping for. And I don't know actually all the information surrounding the background of how our planning unit found out about what Utah had done with UPlan. But they just wanted to, they were put in charge to go ahead and head up getting that environment set up here in Idaho. And they had contracted out to get iPlan set up. And once that scope was set up, the contractor followed it out. And at first, no one in GIS was asked to contribute to the scope or any of that. So it was kind of a very limited scope, at least from our perspective. The data resulted was stagnant. The contractor, they were told that they needed to have the data in geodatabases, but there was no way. They were not told to make sure that there was a way we could keep it updated easily, so there was nothing put in place for that. And we received paperwork of how to, what they did to the data, but it wasn't time conducive. We had to put a lot of time to try to go through and try to figure out how to get this all updated, and it would result in asking all the different business units for their data, and then that whole back and forth of, well, we need this or we need that. And so in the result, the business units, they didn't want to use iPlan. There's even some of business units who weren't referring people outside, that would request information from outside of ITD to use iPlan because the data was old. Our bridges, they change their data almost daily, and so they kind of wanted something a little bit more current than 2 years ago. So iPlan wasn't getting its full potential at that point, and in the GIS team we tried to help where possible, but we didn't really know much about the online environment, so we didn't know what we could do to help. Then the planning unit, they transferred about a year ago all the responsibilities to the GIS team, and we had a new GIS manager on board at this time, and so the communications, at least between the planning unit and the GIS, was starting to get more involved, and we ended up contracting out bidding out for contractors to help create some ETLs for us to actually gather the data, to harvest it from the different units, from the different silos, so we can populate a central file geodatabase where that data was spatially enabled on a weekly basis. And that in turn helped us to support the map services and layer services for iPlan. So we've been in the process of changing out everything that was set up before to new information. Our district analysts, they've actually been using iPlan right now to collect data while in the field, And some, I've been told, have been using it for planning stages, for the project planning stages, which is fabulous because that's what we wanted. That's what iPlan was for us, was to help with planning, but also to show the public and that whole transparency. I've been told by one business unit that their collection time was actually cut in thirds. So they were able to get their collection done that so much more quicker using Collector app and iPlan than their old way of doing it. And we kind of, decided here at headquarters that since, the data is now current and it's being updated and it's refreshed weekly, we wanted to kind of refresh the icons and just kind of give iPlan a big makeover to kind of show, hey, okay, it's current data, we're the same, but we're different, so, kind of start using us and see what we have. And everyone so far, has kind of been using it. We've noticed a lot more hits on different applications and web maps that we have. And about a month ago, I think now, our manager, she brought in Esri, which did a week-long launch kit for us to kind of give us a good head start, best practices of what we can do with the ARC Online environment and with iPlan, which was actually pretty great because it changed a lot of things. We have more applications now, not just web maps, so that way the public, it's a public-facing format better for them. And our business units, they've actually have been jumping on the bandwagon. They've been excited. They're wanting, different maps, and we can just refer them online and be like, here's the one you've requested, and they're like, oh, great, awesome. And we've like with our different units, they've been utilizing it for asset collection and verification. We've have one that's, like on here, our D5, it's our District 5 planning app, and they have all their information in that application for their district to be able to plan out where projects are or what's going to be affected. We have like counterparts in other agencies that are able to utilize the groups feature with us and collaborate on different maps and applications and projects, like with our fishing, wildlife. And all of the non-sensitive data is open to the public. So anyone can just log on to our, onto ITD's main site and see our little iPlan part and click on it and see all the different apps that we have available for them. We've actually been getting even a lot of our road foremen have been getting usernames for our iPlan so they can get on and start verifying signs and ITS devices and start planning where they may want an RWIS location. And the business units, from what we've been told, what I've been actually hearing, they're enjoying the fact that they can see the data, they can see other units' data and how it's affecting maybe what they're in charge of, like our bridges. They see, there's signs there, there's ITS devices nearby, so that way when they're planning a project, it can encompass a couple different units at once, so we're not having to, tear up the road to do one thing and then come back like a year later and do something else. And so the public's like, wait, you were just here. So they're starting to see how they can condense projects down so we can get it done at once and kind of move on to the next one. I have even other units that have logins, and they're creating their own maps. They're realizing the potential now. One of our districts up north, they've actually created a snowfall accumulation forecast app. And the reason why he created this is they've had some reorganization going on, and a lot of the foreman areas were changed. So many foremen were either got a completely new boundary, or just a new maintenance yard, and they didn't know anything about that. All that department knowledge was kind of lost because they moved to a new area. So he created this app for the new foreman to understand the area they were in charge of and to make sure that they had the appropriate amount of resources available for when the snows came in. Robert, our GIS analyst up north, he had incorporated also the National Digital Forecast Database from NOAA. When he was talking about this, it was like, holy cow, being able to utilize other agencies' services into our own applications just has opened up the door so much more. We're able to do even more tailored apps for like our foreman. He's also included our Idaho's 511 camera, so you can see real-time video of the RWAS of the road weather information system. And then I had gotten asked by, I think it was our communications group, to make a bunch of PDFs for the historical markers along the state highway system. He wanted a PDF for each state highway and U.S. highway and interstate in Idaho, and that was going to be a lot of maps. I told him about iPlan of using that to showcase the data instead, and it was so that as you're traveling, if you miss something, you can see what that sign said, because going 55 or up to 80 miles an hour, you can barely see what the name of that sign was. And so this was going to allow passengers to kind of be able to find out what information is on these historical markers. And the first one was rendition I had done was just a very simple map that could be linked to. And then during that launch kit, I was learning more about the story maps and ended up creating a story map for him of just US 20. And let me see if I can get over to that. And so I have it set up, and it's public facing, so if you want to go view it, you guys can. And it just has all right, here's Rattlesnake Station, and it just tells exactly what's on that. And it's viewable on the cell phone as well, so there, as they pull it up, it's easily readable. And the gentleman who made it for, he loved it. And so I'm slowly working on each of our state highways, and we'll have one app for each of them, but he can link them into what he was wanting to do. And then over here is the 511 snowfall accumulation app that our District 1 analyst made. And the foreman, they can click on the maps and go to the URLs and be able to see what's happening. And so we've been getting some snow here, and so they're able to okay, roads are pretty good. Maybe we just need to put something down, or they know what they need to do, and they can go around and just check all their areas as well after that. So that's what I have.
All right. Thanks, Nicole. And there's her contact information if anybody has questions for her. So there was one, I got a couple questions, or I guess one more question for Eric. So if you have any more questions, please, again, type them in so that we can ask them. But Eric, one other question from, I guess, Jesse Pearson. Have you had any lawsuits stemming from people hitting snowplows based on your data feed?
This is Eric, not that I'm aware of, but what it has done by having that data feed out there is if there is an accident, we can now show what we were doing at that time. And also I believe we've had some cases where people have talked about, mailboxes being hit or rocks being thrown from our vehicles. We can show that they have or have not been in that area at that time. So in theory, you should be able to limit your liability and your tort claims against you, because if somebody claims you threw rocks up at them, cracked their windshield, and you can show that you weren't in that area, you should be good to go. So that's a short answer, I guess.
All right, thanks. So we're back to the Q&A. I'm going to stretch things out here a little bit to give people time to sort of type in their questions. Becky, anything else from you?
No, I just want to say thanks to the presenters. I really appreciate the presentations. It's good to hear what others are doing.
Stretch out. Matt Robinson?
I'm good over here, Matt. I do want to thank Nicole and Eric for their work. We're doing very similar things, I think, across all DOTs, and it's good to see some of the strategies you guys are doing to combat some of those problems, and the fact that they can be used across DOTs, I think will really help a lot of people come up with their own strategies.
Yeah.
Okay. I did have a couple more things to add. As everybody's typing in their questions, I wonder if we can also throw out there that we need to start thinking about what might be next. If this has spurred any ideas, and anybody listening that may have a presentation that they would like to share, we'll want to discuss that too and get ideas. So go ahead and type those in as well, or if there's something you'd like to see.
And I'll actually bring up the GoTug. I don't think there's anything there yet, but we do have the. So as part of the GoTug, there is both an outward-facing website and an inward-facing website. So I went to it just to sort of show you. So there's nothing here right now, but we are recording this webinar, so we're going to post that so that people can have access to it. You'll be able to access it from the GoTug website, gotug.transportation.org. Also on this website, there's a members-only area, so if you want to set up some sort of a discussion forum or whatever, you can do that. The plan for this group is to sort of get together on a regular basis at relevant meetings and sort of conferences. So the next big one will be the GIST, and there's a plan to sort of have a committee meeting or a get-together there. The Standing Committee on Planning meets on a regular basis. The next meeting of the Standing Committee on Planning is going to be the end of June of 2016. Right now it looks like it'll be meeting in Austin, Texas, or someplace in Texas. We're trying to find a location right now, but as part of that, the subcommittee on data will be meeting, and hopefully if there are people that attend that, that we can sort of have more of an informal get-together of the GIS folks and sort of talk about things. The plan is to have these sort of webinars on a sort of a quarterly basis. So as Becky said, if you're a GIS person within your state DOT, or you know somebody and you want to ask them to sort of present, sort of do some state sharing kind of thing to let others know what's happening. It doesn't have to be a state DOT. I would offer up that any sort of transportation agency, MPO, that kind of thing. We're not biased here towards just state DOTs at this point. Please let me know. You can let Matt Robinson. You can let Becky know. So we can sort of put together some presentations. But I find in my other work that I do with other committees that these sort of more informal sharing presentations about what other states are doing are really beneficial. People learn a lot from them, so we like to keep them going. And they're fairly, they're cost effective, I should say, to sort of put on, so it doesn't cost us a lot of money or anything. But I haven't gotten any more questions typed in at this point. So I guess with Becky, do you want to sort of close us out, I guess, for today's webinar?
Sure. I just want to thank everyone for coming and listening in. I also want to, again, thank our presenters. I think I'm going to follow up with Eric. I have a bunch of questions that I've logged, sort of just kind of one-on-one about your architecture that I'm going to want to follow up on, because we have a similar architecture here. And it makes me wonder if those kind of questions that I think are maybe more appropriate to take offline, if everybody else feels that way, I think, go ahead. Eric left himself wide open by saying go ahead and contact him. I'm sure Nicole probably feels the same way. I'm speaking for myself. If anybody has any questions about anything that Utah's doing, definitely contact me. I also wonder, because I do have a lot of interest in sharing out these presentations for people who couldn't attend or that I didn't even think would be particularly, it would hit on something they're interested in, but after seeing them, I know that they would be. I want to follow up with you, Matt, and find out, when are you going to make these available, the recorded pieces of this?
Sure. Yeah, so all I have to do is convert the recording. I'll start that as soon as we're finished here, and then I will post it up to the website probably later on today, tomorrow, depending on what my schedule is like. I actually post them to YouTube. I have an account on YouTube, so I just provide you with a link, and anybody can get access to it. The handouts, the actual presentations, Eric just sent me his while Nicole was talking. And I did post that, so if you're still on, you can download Eric's presentation. It's a PDF because his was in Prezi, so you can sort of download it, and I will also post those up to the website as well. So within the next couple of days, you should see everything up on the GOTUG, gotug.transportation.org website.
Super, thanks. I think that'll be a great resource, and I encourage everybody to consider that as an option for if they see a webinar and they know that everybody can't attend, or they think somebody might have been more interested than they originally thought. You can share out the recording. So anyway, thanks again for your participation, and if you have ideas, feel free to reach out to myself or Matt or other Matt Robinson or Matt Hardy. Thanks again.
All right, thanks everybody. Have a good day.